you're on.
All right, today we are talking about Test 5 in our 7th hour reading program. It is a passage about Duke Ellington that was an excerpt from a book called The Jazz Book from Ragtime to the 21st Century. Our first question was question number 12. Which of the following best describes the working relationship between Ellington and his band members? And your best answer for that one is C. If you look back, some of these it will eliminate themselves for B. For instance, it says it's a collaborative of equals. That was not true. Duke Ellington was the boss. If you look at lines 15 through 19, you'll see that C is your best answer. That was the process by which they went. The band improvised, and Ellington decided what was going to work. For number 13, which choice provides the best evidence for the answer to the previous questions? And that would be answer B, lines 15 through 19. If you read those, it talks about the different guys improvising, and Ellington would sit back and listen, and then he would decide what would work. This is how the piece would work, and it would be no other way. For number 14, in line 17, assenting is most nearly means. This is a hard question, I think. This is not a hard read. Many of these questions are easy, but question 14 is tough. The correct answer is B. And the explanation that was given by the test makers is that he is bringing out the melodies. He would listen to the improvisations and he would bring the melodies out, and that B is your best answer. This one is very tough, unless you're really good with vocabulary, and even if you are, this one would pose you problems, I think. All right, so if you missed that one, don't stress too much. Number 15, the descriptions given in lines 52 to 64 provide the reader with which of the following, and of course, you should go back and look. And if you go back and look at those lines, hopefully you decided that the best answer was D. Simply put, A, B, and C are not supported in that reading. I could read that to you, you could look at it, but in general, D is the answer that they're getting at there. Again, I don't think that one was real hard. Number 16 is kind of an easy one too. According to the author, which of the following is true of black, brown, and beige from line 53? And he's talking about the metamorphosis of African Americans within America over time. And your best answer is B. The title refers to color, literally, and metaphorically, as Africans adjusted and became more American, both in color, literally, and in culture. For number 17, in the context of the 6th paragraph, again, they're directing you to lines 65 through 74, and when they direct you to lines, you have time to go back and look, and you should go back and look. Larger forms most nearly means, and this one is a little bit tough. They point to his concern with larger forms. Well, what does larger forms mean? If you go a little bit farther down, it talks about his naivety was also present in those medleys, long series of his many successful tunes. Well, those medleys is referring back to larger forms, as if they are synonymous. So your best answer for number 17 is C. Those larger forms are longer songs that make up the melodies of many shorter songs. So you had to read about 2 more sentences down to find what that referred back to. For number 18, which of the following attributes does the author mention in response to the criticisms leveled in lines 65 and 66? In general, it's the idea, he says, that he failed to see that his choices were not sophisticated, that he is naive, and naive means innocent. You don't understand. So C is clearly your best answer for 18. The others, they don't work. C is where you should have got to. I think this is another example of one that was a little bit on the easy side if you were reading carefully. For number 19, according to the passage, some fans, in line 72, of Ellington were, and your best answer is A. They were critical of his representation of formats. Now, B, were unfamiliar with classical forms of music. the passage said that his fans were sophisticated. The fans that were making the complaints were sophisticated. So if you're sophisticated, you would understand classical forms. For letter C, lacking in naivete. No, the fans were not lacking in naivete. They were sophisticated. Again, that's the opposite. And D could mislead you if you misread it. We're dismayed by Ellington's use of European musical forms. In the reading, that was a complaint that was attributed to critics, not to fans. Your best answer for 19 is A. The other three eliminate themselves. For number 20, again, if you read carefully, this one should not have been real tough. A is your answer. All of the other sources for musical inspiration were cited. Ethnic heritage was line 53 through 57. Orchestral improvisations was early at 9 through 18. And regional ambience is 59 through 62. That would be an interest in regional impact. There's nothing about famous paintings in here other than the fact I think at one time he wanted to be a painter, but it has nothing to do with this essay. All right, for number 21, it can be inferred from the passage that Fletcher Henderson in line 79, your best answer is A, was a stylistic influence on Duke Ellington. Question B is actually the opposite. They're saying that he was inspired by Duke Ellington. Duke Ellington came later. Fletcher Henderson was in the 20s. Duke Ellington was after that. C is not bad, because how do you define contemporaries? But A is better. And they weren't literally contemporaries because Duke Ellington was not playing in the 20s. And for D, wrote music that had much in common with Ellington's jungle style. The passage quite clearly says that it was the standard style, which came rather directly from Fletcher Henderson. So two of them clearly eliminate each other. C is not bad, but it's not as good as A. All right, which of the following questions could be answered based on the information of the passage? And this is a big idea question. There's really no place that you can go to and you can underline one thing over another. But which of the following, your best answer is B. This essay is about the process that Ellington uses to develop his orchestral compositions. That is the main point, and that's where you needed to get to. The others may have been touched on here and there, but when you're looking at the big idea, B is what they were after. All right, I hope you did a good job. This one was a mixture of a couple tough ones and then a series of not so tough ones, and you got to fight for every point that you can get. This practice is going to be very practical for those of you who are going to take the SAT test at some times in your lives, which is at least 3/4 of our students. So hopefully you're putting in an effort and you're making an effort to think these through. You will get better with practice, even if it's only by 1 or 2 points. 1 or 2 points makes a big difference because colleges care about your reading score. And if you want to get into a good school, you want to get into even a not so good school, getting your score raised is going to make a difference on whether or not you get accepted. So keep up the hard work, and see you in a couple weeks when we do test 6.